Hello everyone, I'm Mr.Q. Today we come to the topic. The shocking truth about obedience, lessons from the Milgram experiment. Have you ever paused to truly consider what you might do if presented with an impossible choice? A decision where the weight of obedience clashes head-on with the quiet whispers of your own conscience. Today, we're not just discussing history. We're stepping into one of the most profound and unsettling psychological experiments ever conceived. It's a study that didn't just reveal an uncomfortable truth about human nature. It absolutely ripped back the curtain. This is a story that began in the austere setting of a courtroom, but its echoes resonate far beyond legal halls, reaching into every corner of our daily lives, influencing decisions we might not even realize we're making. As we delve into this narrative, prepare yourself, because what you're about to uncover might fundamentally shift your understanding of obedience, authority, and perhaps most importantly, your own capacity for action. Get ready, because this journey into the human psyche could genuinely change how you perceive both yourself and the world around you. The year is 1961. The global spotlight is fixed intently on Jerusalem, where Adolf Eichmann, one of the principal architects of the Nazi regime's final solution, stands trial. This man was a key figure in the systematic murder of millions of Jewish people, the logistical mastermind behind unimaginable atrocities. The world, still reeling from the horrors of World War II, expected a monster. They anticipated a figure of overt, grotesque evil, a caricature of malevolence. Yet, when Eichmann was finally brought before the court, he was strikingly ordinary. A small, bespectacled man, seemingly meek, almost bureaucratic in his demeanor. He looked more like a diligent accountant, perhaps even a benign grandfather, than a mass murderer. His infamous defense resonated through the courtroom, echoing across continents. "I was just following orders." This plea, seemingly mundane yet chillingly profound, ignited a firestorm of outrage among millions. How could such a defense even be uttered, let alone considered? But for one brilliant American Jew, Stanley Milgram, then a young and ambitious psychologist at Yale University, Eichmann's words didn't just provoke anger, they sparked a haunting, profound question. How far could ordinary individuals, placed under immense pressure from an authority figure, truly be pushed to commit unthinkable acts? Was there, hidden within the human psyche, a chilling, almost unbearable truth to Eichmann's claims of mere obedience? Milgram, driven by this urgent inquiry, dedicated himself to finding answers, and the experiment he designed would not only shake the very foundations of psychological understanding but forever alter our perception of human morality. Driven by his profound curiosity, Stanley Milgram placed advertisements for volunteers, inviting individuals from various walks of life to participate in a study on memory and learning. He offered a seemingly modest payment of $4.50, a sum considered quite fair in the 1960s, to attract participants. Upon arrival, these volunteers were introduced to a stern, authoritative experimenter dressed in a white lab coat and a seemingly amiable learner who, unknown to the participant, was actually an actor. The teachers were then informed that their role was to administer electric shocks to the learner each time they answered a word pair question incorrectly. What these teachers were never told, however, was the critical secret. The learner was an actor, and crucially, the electric shocks they believed they were delivering were entirely fake. The ingenious and deeply unsettling core of the experiment lay not in assessing memory or learning, but in observing the teacher themselves. The true test was simple yet devastatingly complex. How far would an ordinary person go in obeying the instructions of an authoritative experimenter, even when the learner in the adjacent room began to cry out in increasingly vivid agony, pleaded to be released, pounded desperately on the wall, and eventually fell into a chilling, unnerving silence? The stage was set for a profound and deeply disturbing moral dilemma to unfold. The results of the Milgram experiment were nothing short of terrifying, laying bare a disturbing aspect of human psychology. As the learner, the actor, feigned increasing pain, the teachers experienced profound internal conflict. When the learner cried out at 75 volts, many teachers hesitated, their faces etched with discomfort. At 150 volts, the learner would explicitly demand to be let out, protesting the pain. At 300 volts, the learner would fall into a chilling, unresponsive silence, creating an agonizing void of uncertainty for the teacher. Yet, time and again, when the teacher would turn to the experimenter, seeking guidance or permission to stop, the experimenter would calmly but firmly issue a series of prods. Please continue, or the experiment requires that you continue, or it is absolutely essential that you continue. And chillingly, most participants continued. A staggering 65% of them, a figure that has haunted psychological discourse for decades, administered the maximum 450-volt shock, a level clearly marked on the generator with ominous warnings like XXX danger, severe shock. This wasn't about inherent sadism. These were overwhelmingly ordinary people, visibly sweating, trembling, pleading with the experimenter to stop the experiment, their voices strained with anguish. But ultimately, despite their profound distress and moral objections, the immense pressure of perceived authority proved overwhelming, and they obeyed. The very fact that so many went against their own empathy and conscience illuminated a dark truth about the power of situational influence. This isn't merely a fascinating, albeit disturbing, historical footnote from a mid-20th century psychology lab. The chilling implications of the Milgram experiment resonate deeply, extending far beyond the confines of a controlled study. Think about it. Adolf Eichmann's infamous defense of just following orders gains a terrifying, almost unbearable new dimension when viewed through the lens of Milgram's findings. The experiment wasn't designed to label people as inherently evil or good. Rather, it was a stark demonstration of how startlingly readily individuals can surrender their personal agency, their individual moral compass, to the seemingly irresistible force of authority. We see these echoes reverberating throughout history, in instances both extreme and subtle, from the unspeakable atrocities committed in concentration camps, where ordinary individuals, often convinced they were simply doing their job, facilitated immense suffering, to the devastating genocides in Rwanda or Bosnia, where the dehumanizing power of groupthink and authoritarian directives led to mass violence. But the lessons aren't confined to grand, historical evils. They play out in more insidious, everyday occurrences too. Consider the employee who reluctantly goes along with unethical business practices or deceptive marketing tactics simply because their superior demands it, fearing reprisal or job loss. Or think about the insidious pressure of online group dynamics, where an individual might participate in cyberbullying or spread misinformation, not out of genuine malice, but because everyone else is doing it, succumbing to the powerful urge to conform. The Milgram experiment highlights how precariously thin the line between right and wrong can become, how easily it can blur and even vanish under the immense pressure of perceived authority. Whether that authority is a tyrannical regime, a demanding corporate structure, or simply the overwhelming consensus of a social media crowd, it's a sobering reminder that the capacity for both good and ill lies within us all, heavily influenced by the situations we find ourselves in and the authorities we choose to obey. Yet, amidst the sobering revelations of the Milgram experiment, there exists a profound and utterly crucial counterpoint, a powerful glimmer of hope in an otherwise bleak landscape. Not everyone obeyed. While the majority succumbed to the pressure, a significant minority of participants, approximately 10 to 15%, a small but vital percentage, categorically refused to continue. These individuals, despite the experimenter's insistent prods, listened to their inner voice and defied the authority. So, who were these courageous individuals? Milgram's subsequent research and follow-up studies offered valuable insights. They often found that those who resisted tended to possess stronger personal convictions, a more deeply rooted moral compass, or a robust sense of self-worth that empowered them to challenge the perceived authority. For these individuals, their internal ethical framework superseded external command. They were the ones who, when faced with the agonizing choice, prioritized their own moral truth and inner voice over the demands of the experimenter. This crucial finding shows us that while the force of Obedience is undeniably potent. It is not an insurmountable, predetermined fate. It proves that the human spirit, armed with conviction, is capable of remarkable acts of defiance against even the most compelling pressures. It reminds us that our moral agency, though challenged, is not entirely lost. It's a testament to the power of individual conscience and the unwavering strength of a truly independent spirit. So what, then, is the profound, enduring lesson that the Milgram experiment imparts to us? Decades after its controversial inception, it's not a condemnation that we are all inherently evil, predisposed to cruelty. Instead, it serves as a stark, urgent reminder that systems of freedom and democracy, while absolutely vital and necessary, are by themselves insufficient to guarantee moral behavior. Our human nature, despite our best intentions, remains inherently susceptible to the insidious pressures of authority, whether overt or subtle. The true, ultimate safeguard against the erosion of our ethics lies not solely in external laws, governmental structures, or democratic institutions, but deeply, profoundly, within each and every one of us. It is about the conscious cultivation of a robust, unwavering inner moral compass, a personal conviction so strong that it empowers us to question, to challenge, and ultimately, to choose the path of conscience, even when that path is the more difficult, unpopular, or challenging one. Because when push comes to shove, when faced with the most trying of circumstances, what truly defines us isn't our capacity to blindly follow orders, but our courage to listen to and act upon our own deepest moral truth. This experiment compels us to look inward and consider, what is your moral truth? And are you prepared to stand by it?